Hi everyone, welcome back to my craft room. Today I'm starting 5 thrift store flips for spring, as well as some organization tips in each video. And so today we're going to get started on my first spring decor item that I'm super excited about, and I'm going to share with you some updates on my organization for my desk. So let's get started. I was at Goodwill a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of explored through their random wood pieces, and I actually was able to find several different wood blocks of all different sizes and all kinds of textures and shapes. And so I want to create a real pretty spring display with those. So what I did, I took them to my garage, to my paint station, and I gave them several coats of a base of white. And then I brought them in and just went ahead and used my chalk paint in various pastel colors to go ahead and paint them. So some of these were pretty dark, so that white coat of the spray paint made it so I could just do one coat of the chalk paint, and then they turned out really well. And so let's go ahead and get these decorated, and I'm so excited about my finishing touch that I'm going to do on each of these blocks to just take it a little bit of a step higher and make it prettier. So be sure to stay till the end too to see my organization tip and trick for today, a new thing to keep your desk tools organized. So I had a bunch of scraps of vinyl that I wanted to use for this project, and I wanted to do pastels. So I had these 4 colors that were nice pastels, and then these, but these were just too bright for to go along with these. So what I did not have a pastel orange and a pastel yellow. So I decided to try a new thing, and I went ahead and used printable vinyl, and I printed a pastel orange and a pastel yellow, and I've already kind of worked on these too to see how it would go with printable vinyl so that I could get colors that better matched my other pastels. So what I did is I put the printable vinyl through my printer, and I just did a square of the orange and of the pastel yellow from my computer. I just brought those in, and then I went ahead and printed them, and then I cut those out and sent them through my Cricut to get all of the shapes and letters that I wanted for this project. So that's what you're seeing here. I've already got the cuts done, and so now we're just going to weed and put them on the blocks. And I went through and kind of figured out the order that I want the blocks to go in and the colors. And so I'm going to line those up here to kind of just to show you what my plan is for these. So this is how we're going to lay them out once they're done. So we're going to go ahead and do our weeding. So today we're just going to go straight down the row. I'm going to do the weeding of these, and then we'll get them applied to the blocks. And so I went into Cricut Design Space, and I found shapes for spring, and then I went ahead and did a slice to cut out the letters for each of these shapes. To show you in Design Space what I did, so you can see the first 5 shapes here. And so I'm just going to talk through that last one so you can see how I did this and do this on your own too. So I came into Shapes, and I just chose a square, and then I unlocked it. And that block that I was working on was 3 inches wide and 4 inches tall. So I just entered that into dimensions there. I know that this shape, I want to have it be green. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into that color. Now, I want this one to be a bunny shape. So if I go into Images, in Design Space, and I type in Easter Bunny, I'll show you which one I chose. There was a really nice bunny set,
and it was this one. So what I did, I just pulled that into my canvas. And then I wanted to use this one. This is the one I chose. So all of these others, I'm going to come over here on my right-hand side, and I'm just going to click on the eyeball and get rid of all of those other shapes. And this is the one I'm going to use. So I can bring this onto my wood block shape that I've measured out, and I'm just going to resize that to the size that I want it to be, so it fills up the block without going overboard. Okay, so that's right about the shape that and the size that I want, just like that. Okay, I want it though to face the other way, so I'm going to flip it horizontally, and then you can see I'll have it facing the other way. One other change I wanted to make, because I'm going to be cutting out a letter here, I want to just get rid of the I that's cut out. So I'm coming down to contour, and I'm just going to click right on the I, and then it'll take that I out. I want to keep the cutouts on the ear, and so that was fine. Now, I'm finished now with this shape, and so I can get rid of that. And this I'm going to go ahead and do the color of green on it, because that's closer to what I want. All right, so that part is ready, and if I compare it here, I feel like that goes along well with what the other shapes are sized as. So the next thing I want to do is find my lettering. So I'm going to bring in text, and I'm just going to put the letter G. And this font I really like, and that font is called Paddington. What is it? Paddington Regular. So I'm going to choose that. And there we go. And then I'm going to make that letter white so that when it comes out, I can see it. So I'm going to bring it over my, my cutout of the bunny. And I'm just going to position it where I think it would look nice. I want the G to be as big as the other letters. That might be a little big. There, but I do want it right in the middle of the body of the bunny. Now, if I highlight this and go up to a line and do that to center it, look what it does. It centers it within that whole space of the bunny. That looks weird, so I don't want to do that. That centering would work on the egg or the flower or probably the tulip, but this does not look right. So I'm going to go ahead and just highlight my letter and bring it down into the place where I think it looks best on the bunny. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a slice on that. Highlight both of those, slice it, and then if I pull that off, that G, I can now just get rid of that part of it, and my bunny is ready. So now when I go in to make it, it will create all of these 6 different cutouts, and I will be using a different piece of vinyl on each cutout, but that's how you make that.
I'm going to use this transfer tape that I bought from Amazon. I'll link all of my materials below so that you can find them if you want to duplicate this project. Now, this project is actually very easy. It is a little time consuming in that, you know, you have to paint your blocks and all of that, but really it's quite an easy project. There's nothing too tricky about it. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, you can get vinyl or scrapbook paper and go ahead and cut these shapes out of paper or vinyl and just go ahead and do them that way. I'm using the Cricut because I just think it's so much fun and it is pretty easy. So we're going to just lay that on there. So these shapes are all spring shapes that I found in Cricut Design Space. And we want those to just stick down really well. And I just think they're really, I think they're really cute, really pretty. And I just really wanted that whole spring pastel vibe going on. Put this back on here so I can reuse it. This one is the one of the ones that I did from the printable vinyl. And so we'll go ahead and get that on. The printable vinyl is quite thick, and so when you go to cut that one, you need to make sure that you're in the printable vinyl setting or the smart vinyl, because the backing of it is very much like smart vinyl. Okay, all right. And these shapes, they're big, so they're kind of fun to weed. There we go. Just going to trim this a little bit. Okay. And I'm just kind of flipping these blocks over to make sure I'm getting the best side that's flat and nice. And I'm not worried too much about how these letters will line up once the blocks are standing. I want to just make sure that I get the letter about in the middle of the block. These shapes make me think of spring, and I love spring. I love the newness of it. I love that whole feeling of spring. I just remember when I was growing up, that feeling of being able to play outside again, being able to just enjoy the flowers. I always love seeing the tulips come up. Spring is such a great time of year. And of course, at this time of year, we are preparing for both Easter and Passover. These are fun because the shapes are so big, they come off a lot like stickers. And that just, that makes them really fun. So there we go. And now here is the other printable vinyl. And I think I'm going to go ahead and weed out that letter. And it is quite a bit thicker. So these actually act a little bit like stickers, even more than the other ones did. But I'm going to go ahead and use the carrier sheet, the transfer tape, just to make sure I get this on there well. There we go. And when I decided what color for each block, I kind of thought about primary and secondary colors and complementary colors, you know, so I wanted the pink on the green, and, you know, just so that I kind of had colors that looked good together. One thing I'm noticing about that printable vinyl is as you pull it up, it's getting a little bit lighter. Look how light that yellow is. I don't know how well that shows up, but I feel like the colors are just getting lighter. But look at these fun shapes too. I'm really loving this. These were all shapes that I found in Cricut Design Space. And I believe I typed in spring. I might have done individual ones. Okay. But then what I did is I actually measured each block and created a rectangle of that in Cricut Design Space. And then I was able to size each letter and each shape for each individual block. And I really do like this transfer tape because look how well it has transferred all, let's see, 6 of those. And we're just getting them on the blocks. And then I'm really excited to show you how I'm going to finish these off just to make them kind of unique. Okay, I think that transfer tape is about done for. Okay, so let's bring them here. I just love how those look. Okay, let me clear these off and then I'm going to show you what I'm really excited about for this. I have, over several years, collected some knobs. And some of these I've bought at Hobby Lobby. There are a couple that are left over from a previous remodel. And I just kind of collect these as I go. And so what we're going to do is put different, I'm kind of liking that, a different knob on top of each thing here. I'm just kind of trying to figure out what I want and where. Those two are very similar, but this end is the type that I need. All right, so let me tell you what I did in preparation for this. So I went through and I put these in the vise grip that we have at my paint station. And once these were painted, I went ahead and used a towel in the vise so that it wouldn't get any marks on my wood, because once they're painted, I don't want any weird scrapes or anything. So I just put an old dish towel in there, then tightened the vise grip down, and then I measured the size of these posts in my knobs, and I found a drill bit that fit that, and so then I drilled all the way down as far as it would go. Okay, there we go. Let's look at them all lined up. Okay, so I've got to get this mess organized. I cannot craft like this. I like things tidy and easy. So this is my Dollar Tree weeder. Now, I do not like it for weeding. Actually, my favorite weeders are these ones from iVine that I got on Amazon. And so I will link those in the description below. And I kind of trade back between those. But this Dollar Tree weeder, because the end is not very sharp, it's actually a pretty dull end. It doesn't weed well, but I do love it for poking things through holes. I like it for things like opening the plastic, things like that I'm trying to get open. And you really shouldn't use your good weeders for that kind of thing, because it does dull them and it makes them so they don't work as well. So that dollar weeder is perfect for all kinds of little things. So, but what I'm going to, when they're sitting there in my container, I have a hard time telling the difference between them. So I'm going to just do a little trick with this. I'm going to cover up that end so that it stays protected. I'm going to go ahead and cover up that end from getting any spray over. And then when I'm finished with this and I go out to my garage to spray everything, then I'm going to go ahead and spray that handle so that I can see very clearly. I'll know which ones are my Cricut tools. And I know my iVine ones because they're a whole different color. I love that rose gold. And then this one will just be sprayed to match that box. And then I will always be able to see, well, that's just my Dollar Tree one that's just kind of utilitarian. And so that will be coming up. So let's get this box so it's more useful.
So I'm going to use a few different tools to actually create this project. I have another one of these boxes, just like the one I used before. I got these at the dollar store. I'm going to use some wood pieces that I have, and I'll use those, measure them so that I can create a middle divider to go into that box. I also used a couple of the big jumbo popsicle sticks. And then what I did, I took all of these pieces of wood. I had already measured my box and figured out how I wanted to set it up. So I took these pieces of wood out to my saw. I have a miter saw, and I cut some bottom pieces to help raise up the bottom where I'm going to put my tape and my other things. So I cut those. I cut the little pieces that are going to make different sections. And then I went ahead and sanded everything so that I had a smooth top and that everything would lay flat on the top and be really nice.
So I know I want to fit my Cricut pens in there that go in my Cricut. And I've now that I've cut and sanded down my wood piece, and if I stick it in there, it's nice and smooth there. I don't have any edges poking up. But first, I'm going to glue down these just squares of wood. Now, I'm putting those in so that when I put my little tape runner in there, without those, it falls to the bottom and I'm always fishing around in there, and then these tip out and it's really inconvenient. So I'm just going to put those down there to raise this front part of the box up so that my tape runner and my scraping tool can go right there, and there will even be a space to put two different scraping tools, so they're super, super handy. This also will give this box some weight so that it isn't tipping over so easily. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to squeeze my wood glue right there in the bottom. I just am trying to keep that wood glue, these two pieces in there. And then I'm going to put them down and just push them right up against that glue so that they can dry. Okay, so then my next job is going to be to glue this part, this little piece that I made. I'm going to glue that right next to that so that that is held in place. Before I do that, let me just check this other little piece and make sure that's fitting in there just fine. Okay. Going to use painter's tape and create a little bit of a clamp so that this pulls tight to my little divider piece, and so as it dries it's going to come in tight. Now the last job I'm going to need to do with this, of course, is to paint it. And so when once that is dry, I want to wait for it to dry, then I have these things that I need to go paint, and then we'll get that put all together. Okay, so now for this one, so we're going to go ahead and remove the vinyl that I put on this one, because what I'd like to do, I want to paint these so that they match. And they've really served me well. I just want them better. I want them a little bit more perfectly suited to what I need. This one, I have a lot of very different shaped and weight and sizes of tools, and it just gets way too jumbled for me. painter's tape, put it there, and just push it right along there just to hold those while they dry. Okay, so that's going to be real easy to tell which one is my Dollar Tree weeder. All right, now let me show you my finished boxes. So here we go. If you can see, I've got all of my different slots. I've gone ahead and spray painted, and so that makes this easier to clean too. You can just wipe it down a lot easier than if it's bare wood. I've got all of my different slots there. So let's go ahead and put my things in here. We've got my tape. We've got my Cricut pens, so now they're more secure. They may move a little, but they're not falling over like they were doing in here. It's Cricut pens, and then I've got my scraper tools that are going right in there, and just look how easy, look how handy. I'm actually really, really liking that, okay? So now let's look at the other one. But boy, that is sturdy in there. And then I've got a couple of my Cricut spatulas there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually move that up here. I'm going to put my two types of scissors in here, and then my mechanical pencil that I've told you about in another video that I absolutely love. And I think I'll go ahead and put my measuring tape right in. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put my measuring tape right in there. So now they stay standing up. They're not all falling everywhere, and they just stay nice. So there it is. There's my new and improved set, and I'll tell you, I'm loving it. That adding those little sections really has made this whole set much more useful. So there you go. So there's today are, I think, probably one of my favorite projects I've ever done, with the spring blocks, with the doorknobs, and this organization thing. And things were getting so disorganized, it feels so much better to have things cleaned up and ready to go. So be sure to join me for my next of my 5 thrift store flips. I'm going to do a couple more. With each one, I'm going to do a new organization project. And so be sure to subscribe and watch for everything new coming out. And get ready, get going, start moving on your spring decor.